Hi, I'm attorney Gregory Dell, and I'm joined by attorney Cesar Gavidia. And we're going to talk about a very unique service that we offer, which is monthly claim handling of long-term disability insurance claims. And Cesar, very few law firms offer this type of service because most of them deal with disability denials. But we're very interested in keeping people on claim, protecting their benefits, and dealing with all of the issues associated with that so that we can help a claimant to protect their benefits in the long run, and they can keep their benefits for as long as they feel that they need them. But there's a process we go through in doing that, and I want to explain in this video what we do, some things that people should watch out for, and how we work with them on a month-to-month basis to keep them on claim to the best of our ability. So in order for someone to work with us on this monthly claim service, what's the first thing that you're going to need and want to see from a claimant?
Well, because we're kind of picking it up while the claim is already been approved and it's been possibly paid for a little while or some time, there's going to be things that they've been submitting to the insurance company. Obviously, the very first thing is going to be the policy that we want to see. That's going to be something they've received, either from their employer or the insurance company. But their claim applications, their claim forms that they've been submitting, their attending physician forms, we're going to want to get their medical records. We need to really get a good understanding of what the foundation has been for having their claim established and approved so that we can pick it up from that point forward and handle it for them and manage the whole thing without having any surprises or issues come up.
So when you get on board with a claim as the person who takes over the monthly claim handling, can you talk a little bit about what your role and responsibility is and what you do for a claimant?
So one of the most anxiety causing things with disability insurance claims is this interaction between the claimant, the insured, and the insurance company. I can't tell you how many times we've received calls and the insured says, I've submitted all these things. The insurance company is responding to me saying they haven't received it, or that they're missing something, or they got into some sort of contentious, back and forth with the claims examiner, and things have been said, and sometimes these people do take, what the insured says to them, sometimes personally. So I think that removing some of that stress and a lot of that, if not all of that anxiety from them, and that feeling of angst over, are they submitting the right forms? Are their doctors saying the right things? Are they saying the right things to the insurance company? It's all being done through us. We're that filter. We're that buffer between them and the insurance company. Nothing that they say is going to be said to the insurance company without us being present, without it going through us. Everything that's communicated from the insurance company back to them is going to go through us. So that's one of those things that is critical to making sure that the claim is handled well, and that it avoids any possibility that their benefits are going to be interrupted, which is the whole point of our representation, is to avoid that.
And one of the things I want claimants to really understand, that as soon as we're involved, we send a letter of representation, all communications come to our office, every single thing comes to us. So there's never going to be like, what's in this envelope? Did I miss a call? Did I not submit a claim form? Did I not submit an attending physician statement? The only person the claimant communicates with is us. If the disability insurance company, like you just touched on, ever wants to talk to them, it would be with us on the phone, in a video conference, in person, whatever it is, we're going to be involved with that process. And that takes a lot of pressure off people because they can't stand the mystery, the lack of guarantee per se. What's in this envelope? What are they calling me for? And so it's a peace of mind. I call it almost an insurance on an insurance, because they know they have an expert in disability insurance who's going to consult them as to what is going on with their claim. The other thing you touched on that I think is an even more important part of the monthly claim handling is the medical records and helping to get that continued medical support. Can you touch on your role in that when you're helping a claimant on a monthly basis?
I have to say it's got to be probably almost as high as 98% of disability claims when the insured is basically handling everything on their own. The insurance company is going behind their backs and communicating directly with their doctors. They usually have a medical person on staff. It could be a doctor or a nurse, and they're communicating directly with their doctor's office for one purpose, really, and one purpose only, is to gather enough information to ensure whether they should be paying that claim or not. And what they're hoping, usually, is that their doctor is going to support that person going back to work, or not having perhaps the level of impairment that's been presented to the insurance company up to that point to continue paying and approving the claim. So What's important is to ensure that that line of direct communication is broken, because it's really not fair to the insured that the insurance company is having this communication with their doctor and they're not being made a part of it. To me, it's a conflict of interest, to be honest. So we want to make sure that anything that's going from the doctor back to the insurance company, or from the insurance company to the doctor in terms of wanting questions answered, or a certification of certain restrictions and limitations, that it's going through us, so that we know that the correct and proper communication is being relayed back and forth.
And then also talk about how you coach your clients every time they go to the doctor in terms of, the medical documentation and what should be in records, and why that's so important.
Right. So and this is something I've seen over my years of representing claimants, and going back through the medical records and seeing how often the doctors documented that the person looks well, that there's no complaints of pain or problems, and they have a diagnosis and they have the medications that they've listed, and there's really a lack of information there, of documentation, and that's one of those critical pieces that the insurance companies look at and say, the records don't support the ongoing limitations that the doctor is expressing in his forms, or to really qualify the claim to continue to be paid. So what's really important is to ensure that the claimant is expressing to the doctor the appropriate and accurate level of symptoms and problems and complaints that they're having. If they're going in and saying, well, I felt fine, or I feel okay, or I feel good, which is kind of a very normal response from someone, even when they have issues and problems relating to a medical condition, to their doctor, it's not accurate. And it's important that there's accuracy in the level of problems that the person's having, and symptoms that they're having.
Right, because a claimant can go in and say they feel okay, but when you talk about this pain scale, they're okay as a 5 out of 10.
Right.
As opposed to, someone else would be going insane at a 5 out of 10, but they're used to being in pain or discomfort all the time. So if they only have a 5, which would be like a medium level of pain, they say okay. The problem is the claim's only as good as it is on paper. So if the records are saying patient comes in today, says he or she's doing okay, disability company gets that and says, well, I guess you're ready to go back to work.
That's exactly what they do.
So what we do is coach and guide the claimant as to what they should be making sure are in the medical records every time they go, encouraging the claimants to keep a pain journal or a symptom log as to what they're experiencing, sharing that with the doctor every time they go, really making sure that this medical record is going to speak the story about what's going on, so that when the insurance company gets it and their doctors review the file, they say, yes, we see the doctor documented these types of physical observations, but also the claimant is telling them about all of these things that are going on, so that the disability company doesn't have an argument to say, well, looks like nothing's going on because you didn't tell the doctor. And really, if it's not in the records, it doesn't exist. So we regularly request the medical records, we review the medical records, we make sure that everything's in there. So again, the idea is make sure we're doing everything to put the claimant in the best position to keep their benefits being paid. The other thing that comes up a lot is these field interviews, and how do you get involved with those when these, or phone interviews when the disability companies want to do that, and why is it so important to be prepared for that?
Well, the insurance company, if they can get the opportunity to sit one-on-one with the insured and have all of their questions answered, like it said, interrogation or a deposition, they take that opportunity. The insured needs to be prepared for that. They need to understand what the questions are going to be that are going to be posed to them. How should they be responding to them? Should they be responding, with kind of a narrative and just going and, getting into this conversation with the insured and answering their question and giving them much more than what they've even just been asked? I think it's important to sit down with the insured, go through a lot of the things that they're going to be talked to about with the claims examiner. You have to understand, these are professional insurance claims examiners. These people do this day in, day out. They sit through seminars, they go to different classes, so that they could sit down to have these interviews with the insured and get elicit the information that they're seeking to possibly have to terminate the claim down the road.
And then the other thing is definitions of disability and policy terms change over time, and a lot of claimants aren't aware of that. And that's when you have to shape the claim in a manner that's going to conform with the policy language. For example, we know a lot of policies at 24 months change from own occupation to any gainful occupation. And that's a big time to review the file, and you have to anticipate that, be prepared, and then continue to be prepared. And then a lot of times the disability company makes you apply for Social Security disability, and most people get denied for Social Security disability, but they can get approved for long-term disability through their private company. And the disability company says, well, your definition switched to any occupation, you didn't get Social Security, so we're not going to pay you either. So you have to anticipate that, work in conjunction in assisting the Social Security disability attorney to have all the information, and also clarify to the disability company that it's not the same definition of disability for Social Security as in what's in the long-term disability. Because often there's a income qualifier that says you're unable to earn 60% of what you used to do. So those are all very important things, and there's always fluid, moving things going, because a lot of people don't realize with the disability benefit that unlike Social Security disability, you get approved, usually you're on for 3 to 5 years before the government does a review. In a disability insurance claim, we know, because we've deposed everybody at every single company over the past 20 years, every month that disability claims person has to check a box, report in the computer, report to a supervisor that this person is still eligible for benefits. It doesn't happen like that with a government benefit. And because of that, you always have to continue to prove that you're eligible for benefits. And often the biggest problem we see is when a new person gets on the claim. A new claims person gets on the claim, they figure, I'm going to be a hero, or I'm just lazy, I'm not going to review the thousands of pages already here, and I'm going to send the person for a medical review, or I'm going to start asking all these questions again, or I'm going to interview them, and it's not necessary. And when there's a lawyer on board on the claim, they tend to watch what they're doing because they know their feet are going to be held to the fire. So that's another big benefit of having this protection, of having someone who's managing the claim and keeping the disability insurance company in check, because let's be honest, they're $1 billion company. They don't care often about the consequences of their actions. But no matter how big they are, there is an individual who's a claims person who's making $50,000, $60,000 a year who cares about their job. And they don't want to screw up necessarily what they're doing and not follow the rules of the disability insurance company. But they also, in a way, fear the attorney in the sense that they know that the attorney is going to make them comply with what they're doing, and they lose the ability to walk over a claimant. So that's very important in terms of protecting a claimant. So. And lastly, Caesar, you know that God forbid a claimant gets denied on their claim, which is there's no guarantee that because we're involved we're going to keep them on claim because we don't make the decision. How are you, from representing the claimant, in the best position to jump on that denial immediately?
Well, the advantage is that we've been part of molding the claim to look almost near as good as it could possibly look. We've done everything we could to ensure that we're protecting their benefits, that we're reducing the risk that they would have a reasonable or any sort of basis whatsoever to deny the claim. So having the ability to shape that and mold that, it's inevitably going to lead to better results down the line if we need to appeal, if we need to file a lawsuit, and that's a tremendous advantage.
And it also saves months of time, because when someone calls us and says, I've been denied, we get involved, we review everything, it takes us months to build up the record. If one of our clients is on claim already and we're managing the claim, we can jump on that appeal immediately because we've been building the record and getting them every single thing they need. And that's a big difference for someone when they're counting on thousands of dollars every month and then they're going to be without thousands of dollars for 6 to 9 months because now you got to start this process over again. So what I always encourage and recommend for someone to do is go ahead and call myself, Caesar, any of our disability lawyers, submit a free consultation request on our website. We'll immediately get on the phone with you. We'll review your disability policy. We'll review claim documentation that you have, and we'll give you an opinion as to what we think of your claim, the stability of your claim, how we think we can help you moving forward in the future, and really answer any of your questions. We also encourage you to spend some time and look at our website where you can get a lot of information about your company and your medical condition and your occupation and how disability insurance companies view your medical condition or view your occupation, and really educate yourself about this process, because the more educated you are, the better position you're going to be in to prevent your benefits from being denied. So no matter where you live in the country, we look forward to the opportunity to help you and speak with you.